Dr. Gina Park rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the lab results on her screen. Something was wrong with the latest blood samples, but she couldn't figure out what. The numbers didn't match any known human disease. She had been working for 16 hours straight in her small laboratory on the colony of New Busan. "You should get some rest," said a voice from the doorway. Gina looked up to see Hana Lee, her friend and the colony's best medical technician. Hana's round face showed concern. "I can't sleep," Gina said. "Not with these results staring at me." Hana walked over and put a hand on Gina's shoulder. "The samples will still be here tomorrow. Whatever is making these colonists sick isn't going to be solved tonight." Gina sighed and nodded. Her black hair fell across her face as she stood up. "Maybe you're right. I just have a bad feeling about this." 10 colonists had fallen ill in the past week. They all showed the same strange symptoms, a light blue tint around their eyes, extreme tiredness, and stories about strange dreams. This morning, the oldest patient, Mr. Song, had died without warning. Gina gathered her things and walked through the empty hallways of the research center. New Busan had been her home for 3 years. The human colony was one of the most successful settlements on this planet, with almost 10,000 people living in the main dome and surrounding areas. As she reached the bathroom to wash her hands, before leaving, Gina glanced up at the mirror above the sink. For a split second, she thought she saw someone standing behind her. She spun around, heart racing, but the bathroom was empty. "Just tired," she muttered to herself. "Hana is right. I need sleep." But when she turned back to the mirror, she froze. Her reflection looked normal, but in the background, a shadowy figure with glowing blue eyes stood motionless. The figure's mouth moved, making no sound that Gina could hear. Yet somehow, deep in her mind, she understood the words, "You cannot escape what you've forgotten." Gina stumbled backward, knocking over a trash can. When she looked at the mirror again, the figure was gone. Her hands trembled as she picked up her bag and rushed out of the building. The night air was cool as she walked quickly to her small apartment in the residential section. The dome above New Busan was clear tonight, showing the 3 moons of the planet against a sky full of stars. Usually this view calmed her, but tonight nothing could slow her racing heart. Inside her apartment, Gina avoided looking at any reflective surfaces. She told herself she was being silly, that she had just seen things because she was exhausted. She went straight to bed without even eating dinner. Her sleep was troubled by dreams of blue crystals growing inside human brains, and of eyes watching her from every shiny surface. The next morning, Dr. Tae Kim, the head of colony medicine, called an emergency meeting. "We have 3 more cases," he announced to the small team of medical staff. "Same symptoms as the others." "And the autopsy results from Mr. Song?" Gina asked. Dr. Kim frowned. "Nothing unusual. Heart failure, consistent with his age. But I found something in his brain tissue samples," Gina said. She pulled up images on the main screen. "These crystal formations, they don't match anything in our medical database." Dr. Kim studied the image and shook his head. "Probably just an artifact from the preservation process." "I disagree," Gina said firmly. "The crystals were present in the fresh samples too, and they match the blue coloration we're seeing around the patient's eyes." Several other doctors nodded in agreement, but Dr. Kim waved his hand dismissively. "Dr. Park, we can't afford to cause panic in the colony. This is likely just a new form of space flu. Keep investigating if you wish, but keep your theories to yourself for now." After the meeting, Hana caught up with Gina in the hallway. "I believe you about the crystals," she said quietly. "And I've heard some of the patients talking about seeing things in mirrors. They think they're just having hallucinations from the fever, but..." Gina's skin prickled with goosebumps. "What kind of things are they seeing?" "Figures with blue eyes watching them, sometimes speaking, but they can't hear the words properly." Gina told Hana about her experience in the bathroom mirror. "That's exactly what they described," Hana said, her eyes wide. "But you're not sick. At least you don't have any symptoms." "Let's find out for sure," Gina suggested. "Can you run a blood test on me? Off the record?" Later that day, Hana showed Gina the results. Her blood was normal, no sign of the strange crystals or any other abnormality. "Maybe it was just my imagination after all," Gina said, feeling relieved but confused. That night, Gina stayed late at the lab again, searching through old medical records. There had to be some precedent for what was happening, some clue about the crystal structures. As she was about to give up, she noticed a strange gap in the colony's medical database. There were detailed records for every year since the colony was established, except for a period about 50 years ago. 6 months of medical data were completely missing. That's odd, she murmured to herself. Colony records were meticulously kept. A gap like this could only be intentional. On her way home, Gina passed an old colonist named Mrs. Choi sitting in the community garden. "Working late again, doctor?" the elderly woman asked with a smile. "Yes. Mrs. Choi, you've been here since the colony started, right?" "One of the first arrivals," she said proudly. 53 years now. "Do you remember if there was ever another outbreak? Something with symptoms like we're seeing now? Blue tint around the eyes? Strange dreams?" Mrs. Choi's smile vanished. She looked around nervously before leaning closer to Gina. "We don't talk about the blue sleep," she whispered. "Those who saw the watchers in the glass, many died before they found the cure. Then they made us forget." "Made you forget? Who did?" But Mrs. Choi was already standing up, shaking her head. "I've said too much. They told us never to speak of it for the good of the colony." She hurried away, leaving Gina more confused than before. That night, Gina couldn't avoid her bathroom mirror as she got ready for bed. She stared at her reflection, half expecting to see the figure again. The mirror showed only her tired face. Just as she was about to turn away, her reflection changed. The Gina in the mirror smiled in a way that she wasn't smiling. Then it spoke, its lips moving in perfect sync with words that echoed directly in Gina's mind. "You found it once before. The key. Cure. But they made you forget." The mirror Gina's eyes began to glow with a blue light. "Help them. Help me. Before it's too late." Gina backed away until she hit the wall. Her reflection returned to normal, mimicking her terrified expression. But now she knew. This wasn't her imagination. Something was trying to communicate with her through the mirrors. Something connected to the missing records, the mysterious illness, and somehow to her. "Who are you?" she whispered to the mirror. "What do you want from me?" Her reflection stared back, silent once more. But in its eyes, Gina thought she could see a blue glint that wasn't there before. She had to find those missing records. She had to understand what happened 50 years ago. And most of all, she had to discover why her mirror self claimed she had found a cure she couldn't remember. Gina hadn't slept well in 3 days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw blue crystals and heard whispers. She avoided looking in mirrors when possible, but sometimes, out of the corner of her eye, she would catch her reflection moving differently than she did. 5 more colonists had fallen ill with the blue-tinted eyes. The hospital was running out of beds. "We need to find those missing records," Gina told Hannah as they ate lunch in the hospital cafeteria. "Something happened 50 years ago that nobody wants to talk about." Hannah looked nervous. "The colony's main computer system is locked down tight. We can't just search for deleted files." "I know someone who might help," Gina said. "His name is Junho Kang. He works in the tech department. They say he can recover anything from the system." After their shift ended, Gina and Hannah made their way to the lower levels of the colony dome where the system's administration offices were located. Most of the rooms were empty this late, but at the end of a dim hallway, one door was still open. Inside, a young man with messy hair sat surrounded by screens. "Junho Kang?" Gina asked from the doorway. The man jumped slightly, then turned to face them. "Who wants to know?" Gina introduced herself and Hannah, then explained about the missing medical records. "Deleted files from 50 years ago?" Junho raised his eyebrows. "That's not easy. Someone would have had to really want those gone." "Can you help us or not?" Hannah asked impatiently. Junho smiled for the first time. "I didn't say it was impossible, just not easy." He cracked his knuckles. "I like a challenge." For the next few hours, they watched as Junho worked his way through the colony's backup systems. His fingers moved faster than Gina could follow, opening and closing windows on his screens. "Got something," he said finally. "A quarantined data packet." hidden inside the environmental control system's backup. Someone tried to delete it but didn't know about the automatic shadow copies. He opened the files, revealing hundreds of medical reports and research notes. The blue sleep incident, Gina read from the main folder name. That's what Mrs. Choi called it. They began sorting through the files. According to the records, 52 years ago, a mining team had discovered a strange crystal formation deep underground. Shortly after bringing samples back to the colony, people began falling ill with the same symptoms they were seeing now. Listen to this, Hannah said, reading from one report. The crystal structures appear to be semi-organic in nature. They grow within the brain tissue of infected individuals and seem to create a connection to another dimensional plane. Another dimension? Junho looked skeptical. The research team called it the reflection dimension, Hannah continued. They believed the crystals were actually a parasite that exists partially in our world and partially in this other dimension. They can travel through reflective surfaces. Gina felt a chill run down her spine. That explains the mirror visions. As they read more, they learned that the original outbreak had infected nearly a third of the colony before a cure was developed. The documents mentioned a special research team led by someone named Dr. S. Lee. Here's a list of the research team members, Junho said, opening another file. And there are some photos. The screen showed a group of scientists standing in a laboratory. Gina leaned closer to look at their faces, then gasped. What is it? Hannah asked. Gina pointed at a woman standing in the center of the group. The woman looked exactly like her, same face, same hair, same small mole near her right eye. That's me, she whispered. Junho checked the photo's date. This was taken 50 years ago. How can you be in it? Gina shook her head, unable to answer. The woman in the photo wasn't just similar to her. It was her, down to the smallest detail. The file says this is Dr. Sun Lee, head of the research team, Hannah read. But that can't be right. That's definitely you, Gina. Junho pulled up more information about Dr. Sun Lee. According to the records, she had led the team that developed a cure for the blue sleep. After the outbreak was contained, she had suddenly resigned and left the colony. There was no further information about where she went. This doesn't make sense, Gina said. I was born on Earth. I only came to New Busan 3 years ago. How can I be in a photo from 50 years ago, looking exactly the same age I am now? Hannah suddenly grabbed her arm. Gina, what if you are Sun Lee? What if somehow you forgot who you were? The idea seemed impossible, but Gina couldn't deny the evidence in front of her. The woman in the photo was her, or she was the woman in the photo. The mirror figure, she said slowly. It said I found the cure before, but they made me forget. Who made you forget? Junho asked. Before Gina could answer, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Junho quickly closed the files and switched his screen to show routine system diagnostics. Dr. Tae Kim appeared in the doorway, his face tight with anger. Behind him stood 2 security officers. Dr. Park, he said coldly, I was told you were accessing restricted files. That's a serious breach of colony regulations. These people are dying, Dr. Kim, Gina said, standing up to face him. You know what this is. You know about the blue sleep. Dr. Kim's expression didn't change. I don't know what you're talking about, but I do know you're overworked and possibly becoming paranoid. I'm ordering you to take mandatory leave, effective immediately. He turned to the security officers. Please escort Dr. Park to her quarters. Gina looked at Hannah, who nodded slightly, telling her without words to go along with it for now. Fine, Gina said, but people will keep getting sick. As the security officers led her away, she heard Dr. Kim speaking quietly to someone on his communication device. She knows. Yes, about everything. We need to proceed with containment protocol. Back in her apartment, Gina paced nervously. The security officers were posted outside her door, supposedly for her own protection, but she knew they were really there to keep her from talking to anyone. Her communication device pinged with a message from Junho. Copied all files before they caught us. Sending to your personal storage now. Be careful. They're watching the network. Gina downloaded the files quickly, then turned off the lights in her apartment to make it look like she was sleeping. In the darkness, she opened the files again and began reading everything she could about Dr. Sun Li and the cure she had developed. According to the notes, the cure had been a specially engineered counteragent that bound to the crystal parasites and prevented them from connecting to the reflection dimension. But there was something strange about the formula. Parts of it seemed to be deliberately obscured or written in a code that Gina couldn't understand. As she read, she felt a strange sensation, like a memory trying to surface. The formulas looked familiar somehow, as if she had seen them before. She went to the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, normal at first. Then it changed, the eyes glowing blue. "Remember," her reflection said without moving its lips. "You hid the truth in the place between worlds. You are Sun Li. You are me. If I'm you, then why don't I remember?" Gina asked the mirror. "Why would I erase my own memories?" "To protect the secret," the reflection answered. "They wanted to use it as a weapon. You couldn't let that happen." "What? Secret? What weapon?" But the blue glow faded from her reflection's eyes, and it was just Gina again, looking confused and afraid. She returned to the files, searching for any clue about why Sun Li, why she, would have erased her own memories. There had to be more to the story than just finding a cure for the parasite. As the night wore on, Gina found herself drawn back to the mirror again and again, hoping for more answers. But her reflection remained silent, watching her with eyes that sometimes seemed to hold a hint of blue crystal deep within. The morning light filtered through Gina's window as she finished reading the last of the files. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep, but her mind was racing with new information. 20 more colonists had fallen ill overnight. According to Hana's secret messages, the hospital was now using emergency overflow areas. A knock at her door made Gina jump. She quickly closed the files and hid her device under a pillow. "Dr. Park? It's Captain Min Choi, Colony Security." The voice was deep and authoritative. Gina opened the door to find a tall man in a security uniform. His face was stern but not unkind. "May I come in?" he asked. Gina stepped aside, heart pounding. Had they discovered that Junho sent her the files? Captain Choi looked around her small apartment, then turned to face her. "Dr. Kim is missing." This was not what Gina expected to hear. "Missing? Since when?" "Since last night. He left the medical center after talking with you and never made it home. His communication device is offline." Gina's mind raced. "I don't know anything about that. He ordered me to stay in my quarters, and I have." Captain Choi studied her face. "The security logs show Dr. Kim accessed the old research storage facility after leaving you. Do you know why he would go there?" "No," Gina lied. She needed to be careful about how much she revealed. "Strange things are happening in this colony, Dr. Park," Captain Choi said. "People are getting sick. Important files are being accessed. Key personnel are disappearing." He paused. "And all of it seems to connect to you somehow." Before Gina could respond, her communication device pinged from under the pillow. Captain Choi raised an eyebrow. "You should answer that. It might be important." Gina retrieved the device. The message was from Hana. "Emergency. Come to Old Maintenance Section B, Level 3. Found something important. Bring the files." "I need to go to the hospital," Gina said, trying to keep her voice steady. "They need help. With the new cases." Captain Choi nodded slowly. "The security team will escort you." "That's not necessary," Gina protested. "I insist," he said firmly. "For your own protection, of course." Outside her apartment, 2 security officers were waiting. They flanked Gina as she walked toward the medical center. But at a busy intersection, she suddenly darted into a crowd of workers changing shifts. By the time the security officers pushed through the crowd, Gina had slipped into a maintenance tunnel and was gone. She made her way through the rarely used tunnels to Section B, Level 3. This area housed old equipment from the early days of the colony. As she approached the designated meeting point, Gina heard voices. She slowed down and moved carefully, staying in the shadows. Hana was there, but she wasn't alone. Jun-ho stood beside her looking nervous, and with them was a third person Gina couldn't see clearly in the dim light. "Hana?" Gina called softly. They all turned, and Gina gasped as she recognized the third person, Dr. Tae Kim. "It's okay," Hana said quickly. "He's on our side." Dr. Kim looked terrible. His clothes were rumpled and dark circles ringed his eyes. "I'm sorry about yesterday, Dr. Park. I had to make it look like I was against you. They're watching everything." "I do. Who is watching?" Gina asked, approaching cautiously. "The committee," Dr. Kim said. "The same people who covered up the first outbreak. The same people who—" He hesitated. "Who did something to you 50 years ago?" Gina felt a chill. "You know I'm Sun Lee?" Dr. Kim nodded. "My father was on your research team. He kept secret records about what really happened. When I saw you 3 years ago applying for a position here, I couldn't believe it. You hadn't aged a day since his photos." "Why didn't you say anything?" Gina demanded. "I was afraid," Dr. Kim admitted. "The committee has agents everywhere. They control more than you think." "What did they do to me? Why can't I remember being Sun Lee?" Dr. Kim took a deep breath. "According to my father's notes, you discovered something about the crystal parasites, something the military wanted. When you refused to help them weaponize your discovery, they used your own invention against you." "What invention?" "A memory transfer device," Dr. Kim explained. "You created it as part of your research into the reflection dimension. The parasites showed you that human consciousness could exist in that dimension after death. Your device could transfer memories between our world and that one." Gina felt dizzy as fragments of memories stirred in her mind. "They erased my memories and, what, kept me somewhere for 50 years without aging?" "Not exactly," Jun-ho said, stepping forward. "I've been analyzing the files and I have a theory." He pointed to his device. "Look at these readings from the original research. The reflection dimension exists outside our normal time. Dr. Lee, I mean, you theorize that a consciousness there might experience decades in what would be minutes for us. So they put me in this reflection dimension?" Gina asked, struggling to understand. "Not your whole self," Hana said. "Just your consciousness. They stored your body in stasis while they tried to extract the weapon information from your mind in the reflection dimension. But something went wrong," Dr. Kim continued. "Your consciousness split. Part remained in the reflection dimension and part returned to your body with no memories of your past. They decided to release you and monitor you, hoping you would eventually remember and lead them to the weapon." "That's why I see myself in mirrors," Gina whispered. "My other self is still trapped there." Dr. Kim nodded. "And now the parasites are back because the barrier between dimensions is weakening. Your other self is trying to help, trying to make you remember how to stop this before it's too late." Gina's head throbbed as images flashed through her mind. A laboratory, glowing crystals, equations written on transparent boards. "I need to see my blood under a microscope," she said suddenly. They moved to a small lab area Hana had set up in the maintenance section. Under the microscope, Gina's blood revealed tiny crystal structures dormant but present. "I'm infected," she said, "but it's not active. Why?" "Your split consciousness must be providing some immunity," Jun-ho suggested. "You exist in both dimensions already, so the parasites can't fully take hold." Gina looked up at the others. "I need to talk to my other self. Really talk, not just glimpses in mirrors." "How?" Hana asked. "I need to let the parasites in my blood activate," Gina said. "I need to open the connection to the reflection dimension completely." Dr. Kim looked alarmed. "That's too dangerous. The parasites could take over completely." "It's the only way. I'll remember how to stop this," Gina insisted. "My other self has all the memories I lost." After much argument, they agreed to help. Hana set up medical monitors while Jun-ho arranged mirrors around Gina. Dr. Kim prepared emergency medications in case something went wrong. Gina sat in the center of the circle of mirrors, her heartbeat displayed on Hana's monitor. She focused on the reflections surrounding her, seeing herself from every angle. "I'm ready," she said. Dr. Kim injected her with a solution they had created from the active parasites. Almost immediately, Gina felt a burning sensation spreading through her veins. The blue tint appeared around her eyes, visible in the mirrors. Heart rate increasing, Hana reported, her voice sounding distant to Gina's ears. Brain activity spiking. In every mirror, Gina's reflection changed. Her eyes glowed blue, and she smiled in a way that the real Gina was not smiling. Finally, all the reflections said at once, their voices echoing in Gina's mind. "We can truly speak." "Who are you?" Gina asked, though she already knew the answer. "I am you, Sun Li," the reflections answered. "The part of you they couldn't erase. The part of you that has been waiting 50 years to finish what we started." "What did we start? What is this weapon they wanted?" "Not a weapon," her reflections corrected. "A doorway. The parasites showed us that death is not the end. Consciousness can continue in the reflection dimension. We found a way to open the door between worlds, but the military wanted to use it to create the perfect spies, soldiers whose consciousness could move between dimensions, gathering intelligence no one could stop. Memories flooded Gina's mind. Years of research, the discovery of the parasites, the breakthrough that changed everything. She remembered the military taking over her lab, remembered her decision to sabotage their plans. "I released the modified parasites," she whispered as the memory became clear. "I changed them to slowly reveal the truth over time. Then I erased my own memories to protect the complete formula." "Yes," her reflections answered, "and now we must finish what we started. The barrier is failing. Soon both worlds will collide unless we can repair it." "How?" Gina asked, her vision beginning to blur as the parasites spread through her system. "Come to me," all the reflections said at once, reaching out their hands toward her. "Remember everything. Become whole again." Gina reached toward the nearest mirror, her fingertips touching the cold glass. And then darkness took her. Gina opened her eyes to a world made of crystal. The sky above her was a deep blue, not like Earth's sky, but like the inside of a giant gemstone. The ground beneath her feet looked like glass but felt solid. All around her, crystal towers rose, up reflecting light in ways that made rainbow patterns dance across their surfaces. "Where am I?" she whispered. "The reflection dimension," came a voice behind her. Gina turned to see herself, or rather, Sun Li. They were identical in every way, except the other woman's eyes glowed with a soft blue light. "Am I dead?" Gina asked. Sun Li smiled. "No, your body is still in the colony, though in a sort of coma. Hana and the others are watching over you. Here, time moves differently. We can talk for what seems like hours, but only minutes will pass in our world." "Our world," Gina repeated. "You still think of it as yours even after 50 years here?" "I never stopped being you," Sun Li said. "I'm the part of your consciousness they tried to trap here, hoping I would reveal the formula for the dimensional gateway. But I held out, waiting for the right time to reconnect with you." They walked together through the crystal landscape. In every surface, Gina could see reflections, not of herself, but of scenes from the colony. People in hospital beds, security teams searching buildings, Captain Choi reviewing reports. "We can see your world from here," Sun Li explained. "That's what makes this dimension so valuable, and so dangerous in the wrong hands." "Show me what happened," Gina said. "Show me our past." Sun Li nodded and led her to a large crystal pool. The surface rippled, then showed images from 50 years ago. Gina watched as her younger self discovered the parasites, studied them, and learned their secrets. "The military took over our research," Sun Li narrated as the scenes played out. "General Cho wanted to use the parasites to create soldiers who could send their consciousness into this dimension and spy on anyone through reflective surfaces. They would be the perfect spies, invisible, untraceable." The crystal pool showed the younger Sun Li arguing with military officers, then working alone late at night, modifying the parasites. "I changed the parasites to slowly reveal the truth," Sun Li continued. "Instead of enabling spying, they would show glimpses of this dimension to infected people, just enough for humanity to eventually understand what exists beyond death." But that would cause an outbreak, Gina said. Yes, but I created a cure too. A partial one. It would stop the most dangerous effects, but still allow some awareness of this dimension to remain. Sun Li's face grew sad. I didn't plan on the military discovering what I'd done. They used the prototype memory transfer device on me, trying to extract the full formula for both the modified parasites and the complete cure. That's when our consciousness split, Gina realized. Yes, half remained here and half returned to our body without any memories. They kept our body in stasis for decades while trying to break me. When they failed, they released you into the colony, hoping you would eventually remember and lead them to the formula. And now people are getting sick again because the barrier between dimensions is weakening, Gina said. The parasites are crossing over on their own. Sun Li nodded gravely. The military's experiments damage the natural barrier. We need to repair it and create a new permanent cure. But I can't do it from here, and you don't have the memories or knowledge to do it from there. So we need to become whole again, Gina said. We need to reunite our consciousness. Yes, but it's not that simple. The process could kill us, and even if it works, General Cho's people will still be looking for the formula. Gina thought for a moment. Where is the complete formula now? Sun Li smiled. I hid it in the one place they would never think to look. She pointed to a distant crystal tower that glowed more brightly than the others. It's encoded in the structure of that crystal, but only our combined consciousness can read it correctly. They began walking toward the tower. As they walked, Gina asked about the nature of the reflection dimension. Is this where people go when they die? She asked. Not exactly, Sun Li replied. This dimension exists alongside ours. A place where consciousness can exist without a physical body. The parasites showed us that the human mind creates a sort of energy that can transition here after death. But most people's consciousness simply dissolves into the larger field of energy here. Only those with strong enough will maintain their individual identity. So it's not heaven or hell, Gina said. No, it's just another state of existence. Neither good nor bad on its own, just different. As they approached the crystal tower, Gina saw movement from the corner of her eye. Shadows were moving between the smaller crystals, watching them. What are those? She asked nervously. The military found ways to send parts of their consciousness here, Sun Li explained. Spies. They can't fully manifest like we can, but they've been watching me for years, waiting for me to lead them to the formula. They're following us now? Yes, we don't have much time. They reached the tower and entered through an archway, made of blue crystal. Inside, mathematical formulas and chemical equations covered the walls, glowing with inner light. This is it, Sun Li said. The complete formula for both the parasite modification and the permanent cure. With this, we can repair the dimensional barrier and save the colony. Gina studied the formulas. They made sense to her now, as if she had always known them but simply couldn't remember until this moment. I understand it, she said in wonder. I can see how it all fits together. Because we're closer here, Sun Li said. Our consciousness is beginning to rejoin, but to fully reunite, we need to... She stopped suddenly, looking toward the entrance. The shadow figures were gathering. They're more solid than before. They're coming, Sun Li said urgently. We need to go back now. Your body has the immunity, so they can't follow you back to our dimension. We need to take the formula and... A blinding light filled the tower as the shadow figures surged forward. Sun Li pushed Gina behind her, shielding her. Focus on your body, Sun Li commanded. Think about returning to it. I'll hold them off and follow you. I won't leave you, Gina protested. We're the same person, Sun Li reminded her with a smile. I'll find my way back to you, now go. Gina closed her eyes and concentrated on her physical body, on the feeling of her lungs breathing, her heart beating. She felt a pulling sensation, like being drawn up from deep water toward the surface. The crystal world began to fade around her. The last thing she saw was Sun Li facing the shadows, her hands raised as the crystal walls began to glow more intensely. Then darkness again. But a different kind this time, the darkness of closed eyelids. Gina gasped as she returned to consciousness. She was lying on the floor of the maintenance section, surrounded by mirrors. Hana, Junho, and Dr. Kim were kneeling beside her, their faces filled with concern. "She's back," Hana cried, checking Gina's vital signs. "How long was I gone?" Gina asked, her voice raspy. "About 20 minutes, Junho said. "What happened? Did you learn anything?" Gina sat up slowly, her head spinning with new knowledge and memories. "I know how to stop this," she said. "I know how to cure the blue sleep and repair the dimensional barrier, but we need to hurry." She looked at the nearest mirror, hoping to see Sun Li, her other self, looking back, but the mirror showed only her own tired face. "Did you become whole again?" Dr. Kim asked. "Did your consciousness rejoin?" "No," Gina said, feeling a strange emptiness inside. "She stayed behind to protect me, to protect the formula." She tapped her temple. "But I have it now. I know what we need to do." As Gina explained the complex formula to the others, alarms began to sound throughout the colony. Junho checked his communication device. "Emergency lockdown," he reported. "Captain Choi has declared martial law due to the spreading illness, and—" He paused, his face growing pale. "They're looking for us. All of us. We're being called dangerous fugitives. The military must know we have the formula," Dr. Kim said grimly. Gina stood up, steadier now. "Then we need to move quickly. They'll be coming for us, and we don't have much time." She looked once more at the mirrors surrounding her, still hoping to see a hint of blue in her reflected eyes, some sign that Sun Li had made it out of the reflection dimension. But there was nothing. "Hold on," she whispered to her other self. "I'll finish what we started." Gina worked quickly, mixing chemicals in the small lab they had set up in the abandoned maintenance area. Her hands moved with certainty, following instructions from memories that were both new and very old. "Are you sure this will work?" Hana asked, watching Gina combine a blue liquid with a clear solution. "It has to," Gina replied. The mixture began to glow softly. "This will neutralize the parasites and help repair the barrier between dimensions." Dr. Kim was monitoring the colony's emergency broadcasts. "The situation is getting worse, over 200 cases now. They've converted the community center into another hospital ward." Junho was working on his communication device. "I've mapped the security patrols. There's a path to the central air circulation system that should be clear in about 10 minutes. Their plan was simple but dangerous. They needed to release the cure through the colony's air system so it would reach everyone quickly. But to do that, they had to get past the security teams looking for them." "Almost done," Gina said, filling several containers with the glowing blue liquid. "This is enough for the whole colony." "What about the military?" Dr. Kim asked. "Even if we cure everyone, they'll still want the formula." Gina nodded grimly. "I know. I have a plan for that too. But first we need to save these people." They gathered their supplies and prepared to move. Junho led the way through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where security teams were patrolling. As they neared the central air system, an alarm sounded. "They've found our lab," Junho whispered, checking his device. "They're closing in from both directions." "We need to split up," Gina decided quickly. "Hana and Dr. Kim, take half the cure and head for the secondary air system in Section C. Junho and I will continue to the main system. That way, even if one team is caught, the other might succeed." They divided the containers of glowing blue liquid. Hana hugged Gina tightly before they separated. "Be careful," Hana said. "I want to meet the whole you when this is over." Gina managed a small smile. "You will." As Hana and Dr. Kim headed down a different tunnel, Gina and Junho continued toward the central air system. They were almost there when they heard footsteps ahead. "Hide," Junho whispered, pulling Gina into a small maintenance closet. Through the crack in the door they watched as security officers ran past, but one figure slowed and stopped near their hiding place, Captain Min Choi. For a moment, Gina held her breath, certain they had been discovered. But then the captain's communication device buzzed. He listened, then spoke clearly. "No sign of them in this sector." Continue the search in sections D through F. He paused, then added more quietly, and be aware that General Cho's team has arrived. They're taking over the operation. After the captain moved on, Junho and Gina exchanged confused looks. Why did he lie about seeing us? Junho whispered. I don't know, Gina replied, but we need to keep moving. They reached the central air system control room without further trouble. Junho quickly bypassed the security locks, and they entered. Working rapidly, they connected the containers of cure to the intake system. Once we activate this, the cure will spread throughout the main dome in minutes, Gina explained. Everyone will breathe it in. Junho started the sequence, then turned to Gina with a worried expression. What about your other self, Sun Li? Will this cure affect her too? Gina touched a nearby reflective panel, searching for any sign of her other self. I don't know. She's part of me, but she's also part of that other dimension now. Just as they were about to activate the final sequence, the door to the control room slid open. Captain Choi stood there, his weapon drawn. Step away from the controls, he ordered. Gina moved in front of the control panel. People are dying, Captain. This will cure them. I know, he said, surprising them. Then he lowered his weapon. That's why I led the security teams away from your position. But General Cho is here now with his special forces. They're taking over the colony. You're helping us? Junho asked in disbelief. Captain Choi's face was grim. My sister is sick. With the blue sleep. I want her cured. But the general doesn't care about curing people. He only wants the formula for his weapons program. Then help us release the cure, Gina urged. The captain nodded and moved to guard the door. Do it quickly. They'll realize I've diverted the search soon. Junho activated the final sequence. The blue liquid began flowing into the air system, creating a fine mist that would spread throughout the colony's ventilation network. It's working, Gina said with relief. Now we need to. The door exploded inward, throwing Captain Choi across the room. Through the smoke stepped a gray-haired man in a military uniform, flanked by soldiers in tactical gear. Dr. Sun Li, the man said, his voice cold. After 50 years we meet again. I'm General Cho. You've caused me a great deal of trouble. Gina stood her ground. The cure is already releasing. You can't stop it. I don't want to stop it, the general said with a thin smile. I want what's in your head. The complete formula for crossing between dimensions. My scientists tell me it could revolutionize warfare, communications, even death itself. It's not meant for weapons, Gina said firmly. That's why I split my consciousness and hid the formula. The general gestured to his soldiers. Take her alive. Kill the others. As the soldiers raised their weapons, every reflective surface in the room suddenly glowed with blue light. The control panels, the metal walls, even the polished floor. All filled with the same blue glow Gina had seen in her mirror reflections. What is this? General Cho demanded, looking around in alarm. From every reflective surface, Sun Li appeared, her eyes blazing blue. Her voice came from everywhere at once. You cannot have the formula, General. You never could. The soldiers fired at the reflections, but their bullets only shattered the surfaces, creating more reflective pieces that continued to glow. Sun Li's voice continued. The barrier between dimensions is healing now. The cure is spreading. Your window of opportunity is closing. General Cho grabbed Gina by the arm. Tell me the formula, or I start killing your friends. Before Gina could respond, the blue glow from the broken reflective pieces began to flow toward her like water. It surrounded her body, lifting her slightly off the ground. What's happening? Junho asked in awe. We're becoming whole again, Gina said, her voice overlapping with Sun Li's. The blue energy swirled around her faster. General Cho backed away, his face showing fear for the first time. Stop her, he commanded his soldiers, but they hesitated, unsure what to do against this strange phenomenon. The blue light grew blindingly bright. When it finally faded, Gina stood transformed. Her eyes held the blue glow of the crystals, but it was softer now, more natural. She seemed both more solid and somehow less bound by physical space. She looked at General Cho with calm certainty. The formula you want doesn't exist anymore. I've changed it. The parasites now allow limited controlled glimpses between dimensions, enough to show humanity that consciousness continues but not enough to create your weapons. Impossible, the general snarled. We'll simply extract it from your mind. Again, Gina smiled. You can try, but I exist in both dimensions now. My consciousness is both here and there simultaneously. You cannot separate me from myself again. She raised her hand, and all the reflective surfaces in the room showed not her reflection, but scenes from throughout the colony. People breathing in the blue mist, the sick beginning to recover, the blue tint fading from their eyes. It's over, General, she said gently. Go back to your superiors and tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that death is not an end, just a transition to another state of being. The reflection dimension belongs to everyone, not just to those who would use it for power. The general's face twisted with anger, but before he could speak, Captain Choi had recovered enough to draw his weapon. General Cho, you and your men are under colony authority. Stand down immediately. For a tense moment, it seemed the general might order his soldiers to fight. But then, looking at Gina's glowing eyes, he slowly lowered his hands. This isn't over, he said quietly. It is for now, Gina replied. In the days that followed, the blue sleep cases began to recover. The crystal parasites did not disappear completely, but they became dormant, harmless. People reported occasional glimpses of the reflection dimension in mirrors, brief, peaceful moments of connection with something beyond their physical world. Gina established a new research center to study the reflection dimension properly, with strict ethical guidelines. Her unique dual nature, existing in both dimensions simultaneously, made her the perfect bridge between worlds. Sometimes people would catch sight of her walking through the colony and swear they saw two women instead of one. Gina and Sun, Lee, whole yet distinct, each helping the other to guide humanity toward a new understanding of consciousness and identity. And in every mirror throughout the colony, no one ever felt afraid of their reflection again.